Hello. I was talking about bad language in a previous video, wasn't I? And I'm very sorry to have to warn you all that I'm going to make a risque comment about the Oval Office, no less. So if you are triggered by risque comments about the Oval Office, then, well, look away now. Okay, my attention was drawn to the Oval Office by a Tim Pool video in which he mentions that there was a clip about President Biden and the new Oval Office, and it looked like Biden had been inserted digitally into the Oval Office scenario. I don't know about that. He said that there were flowers there that shouldn't be blooming at this time of the year and all the rest of it, but that's not proof. There are hothouses, you know. Okay, so there's this thing about Tim Pool, but I wanted to check on that. So I went to YouTube and I typed in Biden Oval Office, and I didn't see the thing that Tim was talking about, I think, but I did find an NBC News exclusive all about the revamped Oval Office, which is not to my taste. I have to admit, it looks like a bordello now. The desk is nice. Okay, so Peter Alexander, NBC News, who I hope is being paid enough to warrant how much of his soul he's sold to them. He says this: tonight, a new look for the world's most iconic office. And then he talks about what's inside it as reflecting the priorities of a new president. And to prove their point, they then post, yes, a couple of uncomplimentary pictures of President Trump. I mean, they obviously went through all the pictures just to make sure he looked as bad as possible, and just to remind the faithful of the narrow squeak they had when they managed to get rid of such a terrible president who apparently neither got the US into any expensive foreign wars, nor did he manage to embarrass the American people with any cockamamie foreign retreats. And he didn't even manage to leave them a lot of armaments that they can use against Americans in the future. So it's obvious those uncomplimentary photos are extremely warranted. Mr. Alexander then goes on to show all the other pieces of representation in the Oval Office. It's just full of stuff now, and each one with its own meaning, apparently. FDR is there for his social program. Yeah, just to remind Biden of what he's supposed to be talking about. Then there are busts of Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and Cesar Chavez. They look suspiciously like those animated busts you get in Disneyland, but you never know. They might be standing in for the president quite soon when he's finally retired. Let's face it, Kamala Harris is even more silent than they are, and I'm not sure she has any more of their cerebral capacity. So, my cousin Americans, if you find your next president is an animated bust of Martin Luther King, well, remember, you heard it here first. Oh, and while I'm on the subject, remember, the algorithm, or rather my algorithm, is helped by you pushing the like button, by making comments, and by, even the people who don't like me, you make a comment, it goes into the algorithm, and push the bell for, notifications, and subscribe and all the rest of it. Okay, sorry about the break. Where was I? Martin Luther King. My guess is that all of this statuary is actually there as cue notes for President Biden to remind him what he is supposed to be, and possibly what he can mention in his political messages to the nation. As I said, there are also some portraits there. There's one of Benjamin Franklin. According to Mr. Alexander, this is for his emphasis on following the science. And there's Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton right next to each other. And I am told that this is because they had fiercely diverging political views, and they're there as a reminder, what was it? A reminder of the value of differing views in a democracy. So not another reminder to Biden then. As for the differing views, well, I wonder how Senator Sinema feels about that. Just for anyone in the UK who hasn't heard of that, her name is spelt with an S at the front, not a C. Round here we call movies the cinema. Anyway, Senator Sinema, she's a Democrat, actually, but they're starting to eat their own, of course. She's a Democrat who's not exactly following the party line and was subject to harassment from some of Biden's shock troops who mobbed her. And they followed her into a public lavatory where they kept on videoing. Any word about that from Biden, about differing views, the validity of different opinions? I'd say you'd get more response from that bust of Rosa Parks. I want you to know I found all this blatant propaganda quite amusing, right up until this final bit, which I have to admit actually made me bark with laughter. The hagiography ends with Mr. Alexander, as I said. I do hope they're paying him enough for the pieces of his soul he's selling to them. Anyway, Mr. Alexander then announces, with not a trace of irony, that the Oval Office now features a dark blue rug making its return from the Clinton years. And I'm ashamed to admit, because I'm a lady, but I'm still ashamed to admit, that the very first thing that popped into my mind when I heard that the Clinton rug was back was, goodness me, has it taken them all this time to get the stains out? Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.